right, let's get to our first guest. He is the Director of Player Affairs and Engagement, Shaun Livingston. Hey, Shaun, how you doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Let's start with the big picture of this season. It's been a little different, obviously. We're 500. We got sixth right now in the playoff seeding. If you're the Golden State Warriors front office, what's your mindset right now, knowing you've never been in this position probably since Steve Kerr started?
Yeah. Well, every season's different. I think we, obviously this year, ups and downs. You look at an 82-game season. You try to put together a good stretches of games where you can kind of get a look at the whole roster. And unfortunately, we haven't had that this year. A lot of moving parts, moving pieces, trades, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. But I think going in, to the final stretch here, you want to get guys healthy. You want to get rhythm going into the playoffs and try to build that chemistry. And luckily, the schedule's kind of in our favor as far as having a few games at home to do that.
Shaun, I've been telling my partner I'm very excited about where Klay Thompson is at, not just shooting the ball, but physically. And he was a real one early on, telling us where he was, trying to come back from the injuries and the dark places. And I followed your story. And a lot of people forget, Shaun, you had a major injury that changed your career that you had to come back from. I remember reading your story, there were possible talks about taking your leg. So when you look at Klay Thompson, where he's at now in his journey, can you talk about just how you kind of mirror what you went through to get back?
That's right. It's such you hit it on the head, the journey, right? I mean, it's such a grueling uphill journey, and then you plateau, and then you kind of maybe get over the hill, and you feel like you're going, over the hill, and then there's another hill. And especially, as you start getting a little older, and the recovery is different, and Klay having to navigate this journey now on the second part of his career, right? When he prided himself on playing every game and being in every game, and his biggest injury was a bruise, right? And now he has to navigate two major injuries, as Achilles and ACL. So give him credit. Again, if there's a will, there's a way. He has one of the strongest wills, of teammates and players that I've seen and played with. He's a competitor, like the ultimate competitor. Even though he might not wear it, might not, see it and talk much. It's more of like he takes pride in his work. He takes pride in his game. And he puts the work in to validate that. And I'm just happy to see, where he's at for his body, to recover. Because, again, it's such a mental grind that you have to give yourself confidence and get over those barriers and hurdles. But also, the body has to follow along as well, and you can will your body so long. But, just to see his response and what he's been able to do, it's inspiring.
Shaun Livingston joining us on 95.7 The Game. We're at Chase Center in downtown San Francisco. You obviously suffered your knee injury when you were young, 21, 22 years old. Klay was a little bit older, obviously. My question to you is, when you came back, you played, I think, 12 games that first season. How long did it take you to not think about the knee?
It took me a few years.
Right.
Yeah, it took me a few years.
Do you think Klay's, is it fair to say that may be, something that Klay still is dealing with?
No, I think every injury, and every athlete, every player, every person is different, as far as the mental makeup, and also maybe the type of injuries and where the injury is actually, located. Some ACLs, obviously guys deal with, their body reacts different. There's different types of surgeries for those. So just not knowing how the body's going to respond. Again, mentally, you try to put the work in on the off days. You try to get in the weight room. You try to get your recovery. You're icing your knees after the game, the post game, you're lifting. All of those things contribute to giving you more and more confidence. Then you get out on the court and you let it translate. I think that's where he's been. When Steph went out this year, it was really good for him just to kind of, it gave him more of a load, to really carry. And I think you kind of saw him kind of catch his stride with that, his body, his legs, his minutes ramped up. And so the mental hurdle is, a big part of it. For me, it was a little different. My injury situation was a little different. But for him, I think it's even more impressive to do this in your 30s, right? I mean, because just, again, Father Time, the recovery, the aches, it hits different, as opposed to being 21, 22, 23.
Shaun, you're a part of this. You got hardware with the big three, and we know they have to collectively come up big every game to go on a run. But which one of those players really has to step up for them to get this done?
I think it's the collective. You look at last year, guys were able to make contributions, and not just contributions, but timely contributions, when it matters most, around the edge, a big rebound, a big stop, a charge, chipping in, a couple offensive rebounds. I mean, look at what Looney has been able to, look how he's been able to carve out his career, right? I remember him, being a rookie, my second year, our 73-win year, just, again, the injury history and what he was able to do. And now, to be one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, make all the hustle plays. I mean, those are the things that win championships. Those are the things that win playoff games. And I think that's what you're going to have to see from the whole collective, specifically the bench unit coming in form at the end of the season.
Shaun Livingston joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's the director of player affairs and engagement for the Warriors. The last two games, the defense has been better. Is there any correlation between that improved defense and Gary Payton II returning?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
I mean, you had a guy like him. I believe he's a superior defender. Putting pressure on the ball. It starts at the point of the pickup. And so when you got a guy that can hound you like he can, very underrated with his hands, similar to Andre Iguodala, again, it just makes the backline defense so much easier. And then you look behind you and you got Draymond Green, Kevon Looney. I mean, you're just making those guys' job easier to where they can roam, they can quarterback, and they're some of the best in the league at doing that. And so he's definitely a well-added addition. You look at Dante, what he's been able to do, DiVincenzo on the ball and making plays, and even Kuminga, he was great the other night, guarding Brandon Ingram, getting through screens. So just, I think, but starting at the point of the pickup, when you have guys that are giving effort on the ball, I think it's contagious. That energy is contagious throughout the whole group.
Shaun, I couldn't wait to ask you this question. The other night, it's my wife, my son, we're in the living room having some grub. We're watching the Warriors, and I'm like, Draymond, what? But then I'm like, oh my God, he's like a maestro, Shaun. I mean, can you talk about what the Draymond experience is like and how valuable that is? Because there's got to be some good and bad days. I got to imagine if you're a teammate, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a little bit of a spiritual kind of emotional experience. If, I don't know what roller coasters you guys been on, as a kid, or but just that it's all of the above, and it's all encompassing. But I'll tell you this: there's nobody that can play at that elevated emotional height better than Draymond. As sometimes obviously you see, okay, he's going over the edge, he's losing it, and what's he doing? I mean, that's kind of the fan experience, right? And I mean, it's a human kind of experience as well. But as a teammate, former teammate of his, former competitor, you understand the mental game, what we call the game within the game. And he's one of the greats to do that. To really find the little detail, at this point, to really get him going and to get him fired up to where he can play at the top of his game, being that emotionally intense and, that dialed in. Not everybody can do that, and that's a skill.
Shaun, thanks so much
Appreciate
for joining us, man. Really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Thanks, fellas.